have a Drupal site?
Melissa Columbus. I'm actually relatively new to Drupal, and I'm actually working on building my own travel website.
Oh, no, coming here, work with the JIT and on the end user side of the Drupal. So they're thinking of the way to Drupal. So.
And JD,
I'm Edna Livingston, but that's Drupal, that's lots of Drupal sites.
And I'm Ray Saltini with Reaction, Drupal Evangelists. Lots of Drupal sites.
Steve McDonald, Princeton Office of Communications. We have a couple of sites.
Ian Finley, looking for Drupal work?
Greg Wilson, freelancer, sysadmin, and growing Drupal.
I'm Michael Muzzy, work for Princeton University. I'm in the middle of building my second Drupal site.
And I'm Håkan Gardner. I'm interested in Drupal for 2 different healthcare-related some businesses.
My name is Henry Yancey. I work for Princeton University with Michael at Web Development Services.
I'm Kevin Rice. I work here at Princeton too in the library as a web developer. We have built a number of Drupal sites. We're doing a larger one in Drupal now. Sorry if I leave. I actually got to run for a family thing.
So that's what everybody says when they hear search engine optimization. Yeah, I got this thing.
I'm Wasim, Zero Drupal. I keep coming here hoping one day I will learn something. Lots of WordPress sites, but I'm extremely interested in Drupal, so one day I'll wake up.
David Hernandez, web developer. I'm working at Rutgers University.
No, I think it just came around to you to introduce yourself.
My name is Elijah Lin. I am a freelance web developer. I've been using Drupal for about 4 years. And I just started learning JavaScript.
My name is Levi Sigurd. I like building custom websites in Drupal and doing front-end development, responsive design, stuff like that.
Cool.
You, David?
Yep.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
All right. So, as you can see by the little thing up there, it's moving back and forth with my voice. I'm recording this, so I'm going to throw it up on YouTube and throw the slides up on SlideShare. So if you tune me out and, yeah, I think you said something important, you can go back later and check or not. So this is on search engine optimization. Quick little thing. I run my own company. There's 2 of us run out of my house. We've got about 6 clients. We've done some work around Princeton, mostly in the political sphere for Liz Lumpert and Sue Nemeth, but we've been doing stuff nationally for about a year now. I come from a startup background. The last one I did was a company called JagTag. We used Drupal a lot on our back end to run QR code decodes and sending back multimedia files and then using it to really crank along, which is where I started to use Drupal quite a bit. Before that, I did multimedia streaming for a company in Plainsboro. But what I've been doing most of my career is doing websites, doing search engine optimization, later social media to get them found. And this has actually been a pretty good strategy because, like I say, I'm 2-in-1 in acquisitions. We've sold off 2 companies. One totally imploded. But that's what happens when you do startups. So when this last one sold, my wife said, why don't you start your own company? Sure. So a year later, we're still up and operating. So we do logo design, we do digital marketing strategy for brands, we do website design, website builds in Drupal pretty much exclusively. And we work on an ongoing basis with brands for search engine, pay-per-click, social media, email marketing. For some, we do the whole thing. For others, we do one little piece of the pie. So it varies. So, anybody have any idea what this picture is of? This is actually a pretty technical crowd, so you might have actually seen this picture.
The internet?
Yeah, that's the internet. I've shown this to a lot of people. Most people go, it's a plant. No, it's the internet. It shows all the connections to the internet, all the website connections out there, pretty much everything.
I see that picture compared side by side with the synopsis.
Yeah, synopsis of a brain.
Right?
This
And
actually,
it's fascinating how
yeah.
close it is.
So this picture I actually got from Amber Case, who did this really awesome TED Talk on everybody's turning into a cyborg, and she actually compares this to looking at something that looks organic in nature rather than it actually looking mechanical. Anybody know what this picture is of?
It's not really a picture of the United States.
Yes, but it's got some overlays on it.
I would think it's the lighting at night.
No, these are all the Facebook connections throughout the United States. So one little purple line represents one connection to another person. So you can see that people are connected pretty much in their own neighborhood, but they start to connect out to the wide world in general.
Purple or white?
The white, and as it gets smaller and smaller, it's less connection. So as it's whiter, there's more connections.
The white is
Yeah.
the connection.
Yeah. So what?
Purple is the connection, but white is intense.
Yes, intense. So the more people that you're connected to, the more it lights up. So, for instance, the Eastern Seaboard, everybody knows each other. So, and everybody know what that little device is? I'm pretty sure everybody probably has one in their pocket. It's the obviously it's the iPhone. So, and as you can see, what you see now when you commute up to New York is this view of everybody doing this. Or just walking along doing this. So we've become a really...
Physical therapists love that.
Yeah.
All the people are getting this horrible back
And they run into poles and trip over themselves, etc. So what's happened in the last 10 years is that this world has really, really shifted. The internet is just become ginormous, is about the only word I can really put it onto it. Everybody's connecting to each other through social media. Obviously, Facebook's a big one, but Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Yelp. I mean, the list goes on. And now they're truly mobile computers. Everybody's got their computer with them at any given time to look up any information, wherever and whenever. Sitting on the couch, on the bus, right before you go to bed. I mean, the only time that you're really not using and interacting is when you're asleep. So that's really why search engine optimization becomes fairly important. So now we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty stats. This is from 2011, so it's a pretty conservative estimate. But right now, the population of the United States is 311 million, and out of that, 164 million are on the internet. Now, obviously, if you take out children who are under 6 or 8, or some fairly old people, you can actually see that most of the active adults in the United States are pretty much online. 1/3 of U.S. consumers spend more than 3 hours a day on the internet. So people working, people doing shopping, browsing the internet, spend an inordinate amount of time on the internet. And when they are on the internet, they actually do quite a bit. One of the biggest activities they do, which is still a tried and true marketing method, is they send and read email. The next big one, which is why I have a job right now, is they use a search engine. And beyond that, they do product research. So when you marry those two together, when you have 87% of online people and 78% of it does product research, they're looking for something actively. So that's why search engine optimization starts to become relevant. So not only do people Google, but they actually do it a lot. There are 3 billion Google searches a day, 34,000 a second. 20% of these searches Google has actually never seen. So they actually have to go out and find these things. So as searches get very specific, when people search, they actually search for intent. They're actually looking for something very specific. So sometimes Google doesn't see it. So the more words you use, the more likely Google hasn't actually seen that search. That stat actually coming down as Google Instant has started to come in, where people start to suggest search terms, but it's still actually fairly high. 50%, 7% of internet users use Google every day. I know I use it multiple times a day. But it's really the de facto way of how people kick off things on the internet. It's the first stop in terms of people going to try and find something on the internet. And 46% of those daily searches are for products and services. So people start looking for things like landscapers in New Jersey, or best Father's Day gifts, or diamond rings, or mortgage brokers. That's actually a ad word which I think costs upwards of almost $100, because it's people are looking for a house, and a mortgage broker, sells a mortgage worth a few $1,000.
An ad word costs $100.
Yeah.
High?
Simply because,
One click, right?
One click. But someone's actually searching for intent to get a mortgage, which is worth a couple $100,000. So, you do the math. It's like,
Yeah, I just not realized we go that high.
He's going to start searching for mortgages.
Yeah. Well, Google's actually pretty good at detecting fraud and what they call undistressed clicks. I forgot the term, but if they see someone from the same IP clicking it on and on, they discount. They don't charge the customer. Why you need to be in the top 10 of the Google search results. This is pretty much 75% never go beyond the first page. And the other stats up here is 23% never go beyond the top 3. So that's why you need to be in the top 10 of Google for your website and your page, because you're just not going to get the same amount of impressions that you would if you're not in the top 10.
Excuse me, do you have any
Yeah.
statistics on ads versus organic results? I'm assuming you're talking about organic results.
I'm talking about organic. In terms of ads, the click-through rate typically runs between 1 to 2.5%, depending on the search.
For what position? Are we talking about the top, the 3 that usually talk about organic?
Yeah, it's usually the top will obviously get the most click-throughs, and then as you go down on the side, they'll decrease.
And the other data on the ones that come out from the right-hand side?
They get about 75% of the clicks, versus on the other side, which gets about 25% of the clicks. So it's much better, and it's obviously much cheaper to be on the organic side of things than to be on the paid side of things.
Yes, but my question was the paid side on the right hand. How do you get any data on the split between the ads that are usually above the organic results versus the ones that are on the right?
Yeah, so the stats that I've seen is about 75 to 80% of the people when they click will click on the organic side, and 20 to 15% click in the paid region.
But are you talking about the paid ones at the top and the right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the organic.
Yeah, so the organic, I have a thing that looks at the anatomy, but from what I've seen stats-wise, it's about 75, 80% are the organic results.
But we're not talking about that. That's
talking about
interesting in itself.
Mhm.
You also have ads on the right.
I don't know the difference between the top 3 over here and the ones over here. I could probably find it, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
I was wondering if it has any value.
It does, and they charge a premium to be obviously in those top spots.
I was wondering if it has any value.
Not that I'm aware.
It's generally cheaper to be on the right, so I think you're going to get less potential click-throughs.
Yeah, it's always better to be number 1.
Not too many people also know that there's ads on the right side.
So anyway, does anybody use Mint.com here? I use
used it once.
Yeah, I use it. Mint.com started in 2005. They launched in 2007. This was right when we started to get into that social media frenzy. But what they did is they came up with a strategy that didn't rely on TV ads, didn't rely on handouts or trade shows or any of that good stuff. What they started to do is they took their PHP code and they conformed it to Google, the Google stats on how to get their keywords ranked. And also what they did is they actually started to do a blog. But the blog was very specific to finance questions. So they would write blogs around stuff like, how do I roll over my 401k? Or how do I get a better credit card rate? So as people would Google those questions, they would invariably land on the Mint website, and then they would offer them, hey, here's a free service like Quicken that you can manage your finances. So they started and had a tremendous amount of success with it. And then in 2009, they sold to Intuit for $170 million in 3 years. They launched in 2 years. They launched in 2007. They were acquired in 2009. And today they have 7 million registered users. Their model, which is actually kind of interesting, is you put all your data into Mint. They serve you ads within the Mint platform around stuff like better credit cards, mortgages, car loans, etc. So they've got all that great data, and they sell it. And it's free. It's a very good service. I use it. I think it's great. But that shows the power of what SEO can do, because when it's done right, you can get a lot of traffic and a lot of conversions. So one of the things before we get into SEO is really understand how search works, because that actually helps put things into a little bit of context about what we're trying to do. So what Google does every day, every second, Christmas, New Year's, is they have these spiders that are crawling around the web. They start on very authoritative websites like CNN, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and they start clicking all the links. And they go from link to link to link to link. They look at all the HTML code and they start to bring it down and index it. When it indexes it, it looks at very specific parts in the code for what they call keywords. Those HTML tags are your page title, H1 tags, alt tags, the URL structure, and then keywords within the body tags, where it looks to see the distance between keywords, what the article is about, etc. Indexes all that, puts it onto the Google servers. And then when you go and Google something, you're actually searching the Google indexes, not actually the World Wide Web. So Google then looks at all these little instances, where you are, what you've searched for in the past, but it also looks at the keywords that were on the site, ranks all these websites from 1 to infinity, and then delivers the result to you in, I think, like half a second. So that's really, in a nutshell, how search works. So search engine optimization, which is SEO, is the process that I go through with a website to make those websites rank higher in the search engines and increase the probability that you're going to be found when someone Googles something. But one thing I kind of try and tell people is that Google really isn't that intuitive. It's just a computer program. It goes out, it gets the keywords it needs, it stores them, and it returns a result based on an algorithm that is super secret, like the Coke formula. So the one thing you have to do when you approach doing keywords on a website is to start to think about how you as a person search. I know when I search, I ask a lot of questions, like how do I do this, or how do I do that, or what was this, or what was that. So the key drivers that we know about, because the Google algorithm is still super secret, they give some amount of metrics to help people obviously rank higher, but there's 200 inputs that go into the Google algorithm. Some of the biggest are links. The more links that you have going to the website, the better it is. But they look at not only quality but also quantity. So quality is, if you can get a .edu website to link to your website, that's probably worth like 100 like spammy websites. Because Google considers a .edu domain to be one that's referencing you as a knowledge source. Same thing with a .gov website. NewYorkTimes.com, CNN.com, places like that really are good quality links on your website because, one, it's closer to the source that Google starts with, and second, they're using those as reference markers on the site. Another is they've started using a lot of social media in the same manner of what is a good reference for this knowledge subject. So all the Twitter information is public, so they look at retweets, they look at the amount of tweets someone's done, they look at obviously now the +1s, what used to be Google Buzz. There's some amount of evidence that Facebook likes, but there's also some amount of evidence that Facebook hides a lot of that data from Google search engines through robot text, so no one really knows the correlation. Languages and location are a big one. Where your website's located and hosted will actually tell Google, again, where you kind of live. So my website is hosted in Philadelphia, so it knows that I'm more of an eastern seaboard, so I get a lot of searches from New Jersey, New York, etc. My website's also written in English, so it knows US English is pretty much what people do. If you actually have something that's written in Spanish and resides in the United States, that's actually huge for keywords because you can choose as a Google user to search in Spanish in a country. So as I go in and I advise large brands, one of the very first things I tell them is, okay, what markets are you in? And let's go look at those markets through Google Analytics or just through your sales. Put a website in each market and use the keywords in that native language. There's different variants for English. There's Australian English, UK English, US English. There's Mandarin Chinese and Cantonese. There's Japanese. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So one of the great things about Drupal is that it actually does a really good job of doing multi-language and multi-location support from a central database. It also does stuff like reading Arabic right to left. So, I mean, those are the great things about Google because it gets it really specific in a region based on language and location. The second one, and this is something that came out about a year or two ago called Google Panda. And what Google introduced into its algorithm was the ability to look at quality. So it started to look at a website and to see, okay, is this website something that somebody bounces away from, so it's a low quality site, so it's actually going to go down in the search rankings? Does this website load slowly so the user actually has a bad experience? Does the site structure is all over the place so people can't find anything? So again, this is another reason why Drupal is actually a really good thing, because if you pair it with something like Varnish, you can actually get the site speeds really quickly and you can raise your rankings quite high. So those are some of the key drivers that help people get up into the Google search ranking. The other thing that you have to think about is how do people search when they go to Google? What's their mindset? When people go to Google and search, they search with what we call intent. They actually have something they're looking for, and we break it down into 4 categories. The first is navigational. Nobody remembers domain names now. They're just like, okay, it was something, Digital Firefly, blah, blah, blah. Oh, there's the domain, digitalfireflymarketing.com. Boom, I'm on the site. Google Instant has helped a lot with this kind of search. The next one down in the funnel is information. People use Google to find out little factoids. It's like the Guinness Book of World Records used to be. Little factoids about who did this, who won that. So I put this one up, like who won the Olympic gold medal in the men's 8 in 1936. You Googled it, you found out the United States won. But that's one of the tactics I use on my website. For instance, on my website, 90% of all the traffic that comes on is not on the home page. It's on secondary pages. One of the top hits I have on my website is a blog I wrote called How to Set a Table. Interestingly enough, at Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, my website traffic spikes because everybody's sitting there going, how to set a table, how to set a table, how to set a table. So that's a pretty good way, and I write something right in the beginning saying, hey, I just used you, thanks, for how to get someone on your website because they're looking for something specific. The next level down in terms of people looking for is commercial investigation. They start to look for things like board-certified plastic surgeons, best landscaper in Princeton, hairstylist in Plainsboro. Very somewhat specific, location-driven searches because they're looking for a purchase, but they're not quite sure what they want to buy. And then last is they're looking for something very specific. The one site that does this probably better than anyone else is Zappos.com. If you look at any of their shoes, it's very specific, like So this style brown suede shoe with X. But this I put up because I was doing a presentation for a jeans company, 32-inch blue distressed jeans. Ends up on a Google search, might have an AdWords attached to it. The web page anatomy, and one of the reasons we use Drupal because Drupal is actually very good at this. We look at 4 places when we do an SEO audit. The first place that we look at is in the page title. So if you look at any website and you mouse over it, the tab, you'll see the page title. That'll tell the title, the Google search engines. This is what this page is about. The next place we look is in the URL. Most often than not, we see lots of question marks, we see hashtags, we see gemish, numbers, etc. If I can't make sense out of it, Google probably can't make sense out of it either. We also look at the images. Images have something called an alt tag attached to them, which was developed for blind people to essentially read what an image was, because obviously couldn't see it. Google leveraged it to index pictures. And then the headers, which is an H1 tag, is the subsections within the page. So those are some of the keyword places that Google and we look at, along with the body text, to see what that page is about and how Google would index it. So how do you get better SEO? Well, the first thing we do with any customer is we conduct what we call an SEO audit. Is what keywords are on the site, what do we see that Google would see, and what does your brand or what does your thing want to accomplish? Do you sell shoes? Do you sell jeans? Do you sell lawn care? Do you have information about a specific disease, etc.? So the core goal is, this is the information or product I want to sell or convey. How do I put that on the website? Some of the tactics that we use day in and day out are the use of blogs, news, image galleries to keep your site fresh. Google has to come to your site for a reason to re-index it and keep you in the search engine. One of the first things I do when I take over any site is set up a Google News alert that tells me when it's crawled the website again. So for instance, if I put up a blog, usually about 2 days later I'll get a Google email coming back saying, hey, this is a website result. So I know it's about 2 days for that website to get indexed after I put something up. But what a blog does and what news does and image does is it adds more keywords to your site. So when I wrote that blog, How to Set a Table, that got put into Google's index, and when people Google it, my site pops up. I wrote a couple ones, why won't Facebook post my status? Turns out if you put the same status in twice, Facebook won't do it. So I wrote a quick blog on that. I get a bunch of hits because that's a Google thing that people do. Another is you want to get links to your website. Quality links are great. That's what the end goal is. New York Times, CNN. You can't always get that. Putting it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest is a good start because it gets in front of a lot of people. They do take those into account when they do the Google search rankings. And it'll actually hopefully get you noticed by bigger sites that will actually link to you. Here are some of the common problems that we see when we do a quick SEO audit. The biggest one, and this is like my pet peeves. There's no 301 redirect between www and the other page. Like if I have digitalfireflymarketing.com, there's no 301 direct between www and then just the /digitalfireflymarketing. So if someone links to www, you don't get credit on /digitalfireflymarketing.com. So
you set that in Google Webmaster Tools.
yeah, you can, but how often do people actually do that?
I'm just saying that.
Yeah, if you do.
I think it looks crappy anyways if you have two of them. So
Yeah.
it's good to have one.
So, but most of the time when I go and hit a website, that's the first thing we check, and invariably, the wildcard's not set up. Vague keywords, about us. You go on the about thing, keywords, about us. Well, that's what Google sees. So when you Google about us, you and about 1 trillion of your friends will be in that search result. So why not about your brand name or about what you sell, or about a disease, something like that. Crappy HTML on older sites, especially ones that are custom PHP, we'll see bad use of div tags. We'll see URLs that have question marks, they're not clean, there's hashtags all over the place, there's numbers. If it's Gamish, Google sees it as Gamish. And then empty alt tags. You look at some site-heavy pictures, sites, you'll actually look and you look at the alt tag, it'll be empty. So if it's empty, Google doesn't know what the picture is. It can't actually see a picture, not yet. So it doesn't know what to do with it. It doesn't know how to index it. It leaves it alone. Tools that we use. This is a list of tools I use pretty much every day. Screaming Frog. They're also all free. Screaming Frog is a great tool developed by a UK SEO shop. You put in a website, it's a desktop tool. It'll go off on the website, crawl it. It'll show exactly what the H1 tag says, the URL structure says, what alt tags are there. It'll crawl the whole site. It'll also tell you how fast it's loading. So it's a really good tool I use it once we launch a site. It's the first thing I do. Because invariably, someone didn't link this or someone didn't do that. It'll actually show pretty much where all the 404s are, where the 301s are that need to be corrected, all that kind of stuff. So it's a great tool. Raven SEO Tools is what I use to monitor all of our clients. It basically brings in Google Analytics feeds, Facebook feeds, Twitter feeds, and then SERP rankings, which is search engine ranking. So I can see where the keywords on average are ending up in a Google search result, and I can see what we might need to improve on an ongoing basis. HubSpot is a marketing automation company. It's based in Boston. They have something called the HubSpot Marketing Grader, and what it does is it crawls your site, goes and looks for Facebook and Twitter accounts, but it also gives some pretty good stats on the amount of traffic you're getting, if there's a 301 redirect, if you're tweeting and Facebooking, if you've got a blog and stuff like that. The Google Keyword Tool is part of AdWords. You can take any phrase, and I was actually meeting with someone yesterday who was thinking about putting up a writing site, and I was explaining, why do you blog? Why, people look at me when I say you should blog, and they're like, I tell them they should floss. Like, ugh. So I said, look, here's a great reason. If you put into Google keywords how to use a semicolon, there's 110,000 searches a month for that phrase. And it's low competition, so why wouldn't you write a blog about that? That's how people would get on your site.
Is that quality traffic?
That's always the big question mark, especially with SEO. So yes and no. There's 110,000 people searching for it. And you get 1% that's quality, I think that's probably a pretty good conversion. So,
I guess I'd be worried that it was like, that my good, I mean, it's a bit legitimate, that the people that I meant to attract were going to see me blogging about semicolons and think like, oh, this guy's a used car salesman.
If you're selling used cars and you're blogging about semicolons, then yeah, I would say.
No, not a used car salesman in the sense that like he uses the slimy tactics of a used car salesman. That it's going to brand me as a huckster.
The way that I look at it is, when you write the blog, you're actually positioning yourself as a thought leader in your field. So I write my blog a lot on search engine, social media marketing, email marketing tech. I don't try and put at the end of it, by the way, use our services, but here's tactics we use. Feel free to learn from us, or feel free to pick up the phone and hire me to do it for you. So, Open Site Explorer is an SEO Moz tool. If you put your domain in it, it will tell you who is connected to your domain and how authoritative they are. So this is a good way for people to get an idea, okay, I got the New York Times linked to me, or Spammy Spammerson linked to me, etc. Google Webmaster Tool, which Elijah mentioned, is a great tool for monitoring websites. It'll show you exactly what Google indexes. It'll show you how many URLs are indexed. It will show you how many 404 errors you have, basically from your backlinks and on your site. It's a great tool. I check it pretty much every day. And basically, it's amazing how many people, when they try to link to your site, do it badly. So correcting that on your own site actually helps your search engine optimization. Google Insights is a great tool. What it does is show the trending of keywords within Google and when they hit. So it's great for planning purposes. So if I'm working for a product site that's selling Father's Day gifts, you can actually start to see the trends for Father's Day searches start in mid-May and start to obviously peak the week before Father's Day. So it gives an idea of when you might want to swap in and swap out keywords. Now, so since this is a Drupal meetup, is why does Drupal rock SEO? One of the biggest reasons is clean URLs. You go in, you turn on clean URLs, takes the page title, drops right in the URL, and you're off. Has great HTML output. It conforms to what Google and Bing follow using H1 tags, alt tags, etc. It's easy for non-technical folks. So when we set up a website, we put in all this stuff in the back end. Someone writes a blog, it's already SEO friendly. They don't have to do anything more, super techy to fix it. Because it's multi-user, it's a lot easier to set up forums, Facebook Connect stuff, so that people can start to grow your own content. You got the back end created, done well. Those keywords and those links start to get ranked, and you're not even doing anything. Other people are creating content for you. Obviously, the module community, themes like Omega, we use especially when we want to do mobile and iPad instances. Google's getting very specific and very good at seeing multiple cascading style sheets. So, when someone searches from a mobile device or searches from an iPad, they see it, and they will rank what they see as a quality mobile site when it's different on a desktop search. And then multi-language and multi-location support, which is pretty key because the Google searches are very much location and language driven. So if I can have a website where I update it once and it spreads across multiple sites in multiple languages, that's actually quite good on a search engine basis.
So you're saying that Google's actually accounting for CSS now?
Yeah, they look for different style sheets. So if they see a mobile style sheet, an iPad style sheet.
Away for a while, I guess, then I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean,
When did they start doing that?
about a year ago with Panda.
And they actually also just made it official that they're responsive being first and looking on the side.
So considerations are there on the basis of style sheets?
If it's mobile or iPad or.
You search from your,
So if I'm.
search from your device, they get the weight of the sites. Bump up high.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean like a site that's built in Drupal that it still renders well because it's HTML. It's still going to rank in Google. One that has a mobile style sheet is just going to rank a little bit higher.
If you took two equal sites, keyword-wise, and one had a mobile style sheet, it would rank up higher.
If you're searching for a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
If it thinks it's going to give you the...
Yeah, Google's all about giving quality results for search. That's their entire mission in the world. These are the Drupal modules that we put on every site. They are.
So, just to go back for a second, what exactly is Google doing on responsive? How is it figuring out what's responsive?
It looks at from what I can understand, they look at the cascading style sheets and the themes that you have in there.
There's unique queries in CSS that probably the easiest way to use
So these are the Drupal modules that we use on a everyday basis. Page title gives you a very, very granular control on the title tags. You can set it up with token to be very much automated, or you can set it up on a page-by-page basis. Path Auto allows you to set up a URL structure. So if I'm actually advising an e-commerce site, we typically will tell them to do it on a category or taxonomy basis. For an informational site like mine, we try and keep it as flat as possible to get just the keywords for an informational query like why use Drupal for SEO. Global redirect is a great one for keeping duplicate content down. One of the things that Google came out with Panda is it doesn't like duplicate content. So this is a great one to just have one web page where 301s redirect onto it. Redirect when you go on to Google Webmaster and you see, this guy out there put the wrong link on and it's resolving to a 404. You're not getting any credit. This is the module we use to fix that. Meta tags. Meta doesn't have any core result on search in the rankings, but what it does do is allows you to write little teasers on each web page that actually hopefully will increase your click-through rate. So a lot of the teasers that I write will be stuff like, here's an article on whatever I wrote about, we look at whatever you looked at. So it's a little bit of a teaser oriented, so they might click on it and end up on the web page.
I heard that Google doesn't use meta keywords at all.
They don't.
Right?
It's just a way, just a description. But again, that's how it resolves. It resolves on Facebook. It resolves on Google. It doesn't have anything to do with Google rankings, but it's just an easier way to get better click-through percentage. Search 404 is a great one. So when someone resolves to a 404, you get a nice little search result on words that are similar to what the URL that they came from was. SEO compliance checker, so when you write something in the web page or in the body, it runs this little query, it checks for alt tags, it checks for title tags when you link out, and it gives it a ranking of, hey, this was great, or boy, you failed. So it's a good way, when I even write this stuff, I sometimes forget to put in an alt tag, but it's a good way to go, oh, I need to put in a quick alt tag. And then XML sitemap. For sites that are under 10,000 pages, this is really good. There's some amount of literature where stuff that's over 10,000 pages, it starts to make bad things happen. But it basically will tell Google where all your pages are. You can give this to Google in the Webmaster tools, and it knows where everything is, and it can search and index them. So that's what we use pretty much on every site.
What's an example of what happens if you're over 10,000 pages?
To tell you the truth, I haven't worked on anything that big, so I've just read about it.
What do you read about it?
That it actually slows down the site quite a bit, that the XML file gets pretty big.
On the site.
Is there XML site?
Yeah. So, again,
I know it's had performance problems generating sitemap, so that may be why.
Yeah.
Like it runs on cron,
Oh,
it
yeah.
says on the site, I think it's generating XML.
Oh, it does it every time you update the site.
I think it may be. I think it may. Yeah, I don't think it's particularly smart.
You can set it to do it. I set it to regenerate every day.
What did you say?
What's that?
If you have your site running fine, and this thing takes 10 minutes.
It takes 10 minutes?
It probably takes that on 10,000. I have 200.
That seems like
and
more
it
than
takes
that.
like a minute.
Well, I mean, you think about your rendering essentially a tree structure of your entire site
Yeah.
and writing it out into XML, and probably using really efficiently a tool.
That's what I'm saying.
It does take a long time to generate.
Yeah.
For sure.
You can fix it by getting rid of public pages.
It's probably a good idea for most sites. Probably half of it is crap.
So, any questions?
I have a question. Have you used SEO Essentials, SEO Tools module?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? You've seen some really cool things that it does, and like actually analyzing your content before you publish it inside.
It's pretty good. I would say if you want to use it would be fine, because when I kind of write, I kind of already have that in my head, and I find it distracting. But it's one of those. It's a balancing act of, do I want to throw in as many keywords as possible, or do I actually want to write a great article?
Yeah.
So I get distracted when I use something like Inbound Writer or SEO Essentials, because it keeps suggesting me to do stuff, and I don't want to do it. So
Inbound what?
there's a company called Inbound Writer that had something very similar. So you would put in a keyword phrase you wanted to rank for, and then it would look at it and go, you don't have enough keywords in your body, to make it good. So, for instance,
none of
like
the tools that you mentioned do that.
the SEO compliance checker does a good job of looking for stuff like alt tag and title tags within the code.
Like Raven SEO tools.
Raven SEO Tools does a great job of showing me the analytics. So it'll show me, here's my website traffic, here are the search engine results where I rank for different keywords and phrases. Here's my Facebook traffic.
One of the tools you use probably gives you suggestions on how to make it higher now, or you just have it on your head.
No, I just have it in my head. The SEO Essentials would be pretty good just to start out as a beginner. Because like I said, it's a balancing act, so when I'm trying to write a blog, I'm actually trying to write a good blog versus one that's going to be SEO friendly. So if I'm writing how to set a table, it'll probably suggest, put in how to set a table a lot. Well, someone's reading it's going to be like, why does it keep saying how to set a table? So I kind of just go with what I think is like a good bare minimum, putting it in the title tag, using it in a picture, using it in the URL structure. And Google's pretty good at figuring it out, from there. So.
You don't like guarantee people to get top 10.
No, I'm not like the guy in Philadelphia with the billboards. #1 SEO. It's not that hard to rank in the top 10 for low stuff. Yeah, everybody knows it. It's hard to get in for very competitive words like social media marketing companies and things like that. But
Did you get any kind of algorithms? Because I did a spreadsheet and I said, well, okay, well, I did search for this keyword, 1.5 million results, right?
Mhm.
And compared with X amount of searches per month, and I did some math on it, and I came up with a number, and I was kind of like, well, that tells me, okay, if I do get in the top 10, my reward is going to be much higher.
Mhm.
Do you ever do any kind of thing like that?
yeah, so what the keyword tools will show you is this keyword generates this many searches. So I just, 75% of X probably get me that many impressions.
Yeah. I know Google Keyword Tool does that. Does Screaming Frog or any of these?
No, Screaming Frog just looks at the site and the keywords it sees in those, the H1, clean URLs, alt tags. So it's a good way to diagnose this is how Google sees it versus looking for predictive behavior on Google. Google Insights and Google Keyword Tool are really good at showing me this is what people are these are the search terms people are using to look for stuff.
You use that quite a bit. Keyword Tool?
Yeah, because that's what I'm seeding on these sites.
Yeah.
So,
That's kind of the first part you have to use.
yeah. I mean, the first part is I look at the site to see, do I need to just junk that whole site and build a whole new one? Or do I just need to clean it up and put the keyword tools in? So, first thing, just like triage, diagnose the patient. Okay, you got a crappy Joomla site, you need to put Drupal in. Or you've got a rockin' Drupal 6 site, let's just put the right keywords into place. The only thing I would say on Drupal 6 versus Drupal 7 is if you're going to do Drupal 7, put it on its own server because the site speed will help quite a bit versus Drupal 6, which seems to do pretty well if you put it like on GoDaddy, on shared servers and stuff like that.
So Drupal 7 requires.
So just from a site speed point of
Out of the box.
view. Mm-hmm.
Do you use PressFlow for your sites?
No.
I mean, 7 has almost everything. There is really not a super good Drupal 7 Drupal. Yeah, so Drupal 7, most of what was in Drupal 6 was pulled into Drupal 4. Well, there is a Pressflow 7, which is basically no different.
Yeah, it's
There's a couple proposals for things that there, but most of the performance enhancements that were in Pressflow 6 got into Drupal 7. But a lot of those are around being able to use things like varnish, to use other caching strategies, some other fixes. But yeah, Drupal has so much more functionality added to it. people side than I do.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Yeah, I would actually use PressFlow if using Drupal 6. Because then the varnish integration actually work.
Okay.
So, yeah, we would actually recommend that for most people. I would have to try it.
Facebook as a source of
Mhm.
that's like really
Yeah, there's some. No one really knows what they do with Facebook because nobody knows what Facebook's robot text is doing. We use Facebook because Facebook is without a doubt the #1 traffic referrer on the internet. I get probably 40% of my traffic comes from Facebook. So I don't really look at it from an SEO point of view. I look at it from a traffic generation point of view. So I mean, that's. I mean, when we publish a blog or we publish someone else's blog, we put it on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and there's enough of an audience there that will come on. Pinterest obviously has got a lot of search engine stuff on it, and Twitter's totally open.
So it's sort of off topic. Do you or anybody else know of a module that'll take new content types and automatically post a snippet to Facebook? And the users, if they post a new blog, it just takes a snippet and puts it.
Yeah, so we're using Jammin, Engage, that kind of thing. So there is a Drupal module. Jammin is in the company.
Okay.
No, so they have a free tier where it basically puts a JavaScript widget kind of in with your content. So if a user has authenticated against the service, it'll basically copy a snippet of the thing they posted and send it off. JANRAIN.
It's actually project/RPX.
Yeah, Project RPX. So that was their old name. So they're actually did a lot of work developing their kind of view.
The user of the server?
Well, so they have option. I don't know. We're using the pro version. The pro version has an API, so it gives you more control. And then you can have a server level post and a user level post, posting to multiple networks.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about that kind of strategy is Facebook has its own algorithm called EdgeRank, and one of the findings that people have had is that posting outside of Facebook into Facebook actually brings you down in the EdgeRank, so less people see it in the newsfeed versus people just typing it in, and that's because Facebook wants to keep people on Facebook and updating content with them.
If you post links to your external blog in Facebook, it'll lower your ranking in Facebook.
I don't know about that, but if you use a third-party service to post to Facebook, I know it will lower your EdgeRank.
Oh, it's not a human doing it.
Right.
Oh, when it receives people.
Right. It wants to keep humans on Facebook, Facebooking. They don't want you outside the walled garden. So.
Well, just staying with that, and then I'll come back to my question.
Mhm.
But if you said earlier that you post a blog and you feed it to Facebook,
Mhm.
Twitter, so how are you doing that?
I type.
Manually?
Yeah.
Copy paste?
Yep. Just copy and paste. Takes 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
So.
I was
The good thing that I started using, we were doing a little bit of testing on this, is Facebook did put out a schedule thing for scheduled posts. We haven't seen a drop in the amount of impressions or the amount of traffic when we schedule something within Facebook versus when we use Hootsuite or something else. So if you're on your website, your page, and you look at the posting, you look down in the left-hand corner, you'll see a little watch. If you click on it, it'll actually let you either backdate a post, or it will actually let you schedule it into the future 6 months, 0 to 6 months at a time. So, yeah. So what you see on some of these really high-end Coca-Cola, Harley-Davidson, they've backdated posts to 1856. So they've done some really cool mosaics of history on the timelines.
They won't let you edit
Yeah.
post after you make it, but they let you change the time.
Yep.
Yeah, so
I
you
guess
fill up
so.
your timeline.
Well,
Princeton
so maybe that's
University.
I get it, but why not let us edit if we make a typo?
So yeah, I found out this. You can go back to 1865 on posts and to the year 1000 for milestone. Well, I don't know why there's a difference between the two. I haven't seen anybody like Magna Carta and sign or anything like that. But you had another question?
Yes, I you said secret sauce, and secret sauce is I think the biggest keyword on the site right now. But I have not figured out what Google does sometimes, because I've seen some pages with very little content, but nicely done, pop up right up top. And some pages with gobs and gobs and gobs showing up on the top also. So it doesn't seem to make sense many times when you're trying to look at it, even with some tools, to ranking and this and that. It doesn't make sense, to me it has never made sense why some page is doing it. And I have only come to just type what you need to type, perhaps type as little as possible, and be done with it, because to me, trying to figure out what Google is doing from SEO perspective is a lost cause. What's your part of that?
So I would say, like I've used this example before, then how to set a table. That is probably maybe 2 paragraphs, and I rank in the top 15 for it. So that is the reason I rank so high. And it's this tiny little thing is I know where all the keywords need to go. So, if you look at somebody who's got gobs and gobs of content, they might have, you look at the code, like the output's like a div tag, there's no alt tag on it, the URL structure is a mess, So Google can't see it, it's not human, it's still a computer program. If it can't see those words, it's not going to index it correctly. The other is, now Google's extremely time sensitive, so if your website's not been updated, it's not going to crawl your site and it's not going to index it. So, the more and more you update your site, the more and more likely Google keeps you in their index and keeps it fresh. So, but I'll be the first to admit that, what I do is still somewhat of an art rather than a science. I have to play a lot of guessing games on what people are going to search. I have to, be somewhat intuitive. But I kind of usually take the strategy of having a website with a lot of breadth just increases the probability you're going to cast a wide net to catch a lot of fish, and one of those fish hopefully has some dollars. So that's kind of how I look at it and how I advise my clients.
How do you handle clients that want a guarantee?
I don't.
Yeah. What do you say to them? Just like,
I can't guarantee results.
I mean,
What I tell people is it's a 3 to 6 month process from when we put keywords on your site and get it all ready and start to blog. And between 1 and 3 months, I usually have a client on the phone who's like, why isn't anybody coming to my website? Why? And then slowly but surely, they start to come. And then usually about 6 months later, there start to be a decent amount of traffic, a decent amount of keyword rankings and links to the site. So. Another tactic we use also that does help is press releases. Press releases could be very cheap and very good at getting links back to your site. I mean, if you put out a press release on PR Newswire for a couple $100, Yahoo will automatically pick it up and put it on their site. So it'll be duplicate content, but you'll still get a link from Yahoo to your site. So that's one strategy that we use also to get links to the site to get you up in Google.
PR, is that the best one, PR?
Oh, there's a whole bunch. I mean, PR Newswire is kind of the big dog one. They've got a product called, I think, iReach that allows you for a couple $100 just to put out a press release. You can embed YouTube videos and all sorts of stuff. So have them tweet.
Talking about YouTube, how is the role of YouTube coming in?
So YouTube is really great for when people do video searches, and it also helps a lot if you've got a website with YouTube embedded and people watch the YouTube site. It increases your time on site, which is a good quality metric, so it'll help you go up higher in the search rankings.
Here's my question that I wanted to ask was, let's say you have 2 sites with identical content. And if I understood you correctly, a site that is not updated, which has been targeted by Google at one time,
Mhm.
that if I were to take the second side, reshuffle the words and put it back in the same order as before, the fact that it's a more recent updated site would make it rank higher.
Yep.
And older stuff would be viewed as stale, and the content would be exactly the same.
We do that. I mean, that's if I couldn't do that, I wouldn't have a job. I mean, you can shuffle keywords in and out. We use that tactic a lot with product searches, especially around stuff like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, because people will search for gifts at that appropriate time. So you can shuffle it. Google will then re-index your site for the keywords. I haven't read if it keeps a history of those keywords or not, or how often you do it, but that's something that we've done that we've seen be effective with search engine rankings. We've also done duplicate pages where we will tweak the content a little bit for a particular holiday, especially if we're doing AdWords, because AdWords uses something called a quality score where they actually look at the code on the page to make sure that what you're actually selling is there, because they don't want to have people click on it and not get on a site and have somebody pay and it not be a quality result. So we've done stuff like that as well.
Another question, just to make sure I understand it correctly. So let's say that I would do a site for the French market.
Mm-hmm.
Would be hosted on the US server. But I'm still looking at that would automatically make it less rank lower than the identical site content and server hosted in France.
That's correct. But if you had people searching in French in the United States, you would do quite well.
Right. And let's say that there was intended for the French market.
Yeah, then you
Where is that data from? Because that doesn't make sense at all. If you have a server in California,
it just looks at the IP address.
Yeah, but that just doesn't make sense that would include the user experience at all.
No, so what Google does, if you look at a Google search down in the lower right-hand corner, it'll show your location. So you can tell Google, it'll default to where you are. So if I search, it searches Princeton, New Jersey.
The user searching is.
Right. So what it's doing is it's searching for stuff that's somewhat local to you.
But even if you're not
It just
shopping, I'm
doesn't
not
make
looking
sense.
for an event and I'm not shopping for groceries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in something in non-English language, for instance.
Mhm.
That content happens to be hosted in the United States.
Yeah, it's one queue that Google uses like mobile. So if you've had two websites that are the same, one's in US, one's in France, the French one's going to rank higher than the US one. If the one in the US has links from whitehouse.gov, newyorktimes.com, cnn.com, it's going to outrank the one in France. So it's not, one is going to be bigger than the other. It's one of 200 queues that Google's going to use to rank them, 1 through infinity.
I want to add to everybody that Google has a really cool video they launched, and you might have seen it, and it's actually like a search engine meeting
Mm-hmm.
inside their headquarters, and like the guy who actually invented the Google search algorithm is like leading the meeting, and I thought it was great. It's like 15 minutes long, and they got a whole bunch of Googlers sitting on the floor with their laptops and the other decision makers around the table. You kind of get a glimpse into like how they make decisions. That was like on a spell checking thing for long strings, and how they make a decision. And anyway, I think it's pretty fascinating. It's kind of
And they're constantly changing their algorithm. I mean,
yeah.
they just launched one called Penguin that looked for spammy websites. So, it's just one of the things that I always have to keep up by reading and adjusting strategies. But that's part of the game.
There's also, I want to add too, that there is a way, I read about this and I didn't really actually do it, but there's a way to actually force Google to index your one page on your site in Google Webmaster Tools. So if you're updating a page and you want to get right then, what it does is it checks something with your links. So there's a tool in Google Webmaster Tools that checks all the links in your site for broken links and stuff like that. Anyway, in the Google Help file, it said this will also index your page. Because once it hits it, it does that work, it does it adds to the index. So if you are doing any work, you can Google it and you figure it out. But there was a way to do it. It's kind of
I have a question for the group about auto posting. For Drupal 6, does anybody know the Twitter module that actually works in Drupal 6? Because the ones that are called Twitter or Twitter auto post don't work. It's called Twitter.
But did you make the minimum requirements? So if you need OAuth, that has to work first.
Yeah, so what's all that about?
You have to do OAuth and you have to configure your Twitter account in OAuth so that can authenticate to Twitter. Then you need to return it. So you use OAuth to log into Twitter to send your post.
Again, I think it's the same, you have to go through the whole set of authorizing application post to Twitter.
It didn't used to be like that, they changed it about a year ago, so.
Well, security flaw there.
The one I followed the instructions.
They're all pretty much like that.
It's
Twitter and
it's
Facebook
in
are all
the
the
beginning.
You have to actually go to the service provider and like
Create
develop
an
an account,
key or
and
something.
they'll give you like an API key or something. So you can make think that it's all posted.
So you're using the one that's just
It's called Twitter, but you need OAuth and you have to get the keys for Twitter. You can also have it so that you post to Twitter, it goes into Twitter, you have an API key in Twitter that goes to Facebook.
Yes, you need to go.
So, it does them all at the same time. Those work.
But will you Slack,
Yeah, I'm gonna throw them up on SlideShare, and then I'll throw them up the presentation on YouTube. So
Should we do
you can Google for me. I'll just take this home, throw it in iMovie, and then it'll probably be my blog tomorrow.
post on Twitter? Don't follow.
There you go.
Quick question, you said spammy sites, etc.
Mhm.
If you set up a page or several pages, which you actually, you do your spiel for whatever you're trying to do on each page, but in the last one or two paragraphs, you're making it kind of consistent, like a closer, that, I will do this for you, and I'll go to Mount Everest for you, and so here's my number of columns. Is that spam?
No, I think when I say spammy sites, it's stuff they put up pop-ups. They use the meta tags to do what it's called keyword stuffing, where it's hidden, or they'll do stuff, which is usually my favorite, where they'll use font and they'll color the font white so you can't actually see it, but Google can see it, so it's like it repeats
you get
itself.
penalized big time for that.
Yeah, so those are a lot of things that people use on a black hat basis to go. Also, like I have, because I kind of feel like if people read my blog and they actually put a decent comment, like I have no problem someone putting their domain, on the thing. So you can use something called a rel or a rel no follow,
Yeah.
but I'm a Google guy, so it's like, hey, link to my site if you're actually going to put something worthwhile. But I get a lot of people who will write stuff like this, and it's like, at least try to come up with a good comment. It's like, this is the best blog I've ever written or written, right? And then they'll put their URL and be like, I love Prada bags. It's like, so it's delete. So you'll see a lot of black hat stuff like that, which is just part of the go around. We don't do link backs. There's a plethora of companies based overseas that will go and look for sites, and they'll put stuff in comments and so on and so forth. JCPenney's gotten into a big amount of trouble because they hired somebody who did that, and they went on a lot of forums and stuff. People posted the link, and Google saw it, and they ranked them really high. And then Google was like, "Why is JCPenney's on the top of all these sites? Oh, that's bad. We're gonna change our algorithm." And they went right down to like 55. So we try and to keep it pretty white glove.